right, so last week's video, we talked about warming up and how important it is before running, gave you guys some tips on how to do that. This video is going to be more about injuries that are associated with running, your really common ones, things like hamstring pulls, calf pulls, and shin splints, the big one, and kind of how to prevent them, what to look out for, and ways to deal with them if you do get them, okay? The number one way to avoid things like that is to make sure you have good running form, which we'll talk about in the next video, and to do a good warm-up, which you talked about in the last video. So make sure that you are at least doing a great warm-up. If you're not sure about the form, we will get to that next week. The big things, the most common one that I think you'll see, or at least know people that deal with pretty regularly, is going to be shin splints. And now what shin splints are is essentially a lot of pain just right through the shin here. And every time you take a step and you land on that foot, you get pain that shoots up because that muscle in the shin, the tibialis anterior, and then through the calves, they get really tight and they just start pulling on the bone there, and it's just really uncomfortable. It's kind of like a tendonitis if you ever had like a tennis elbow or a golfer's elbow, but just along the whole side of that shin. It is not fun to deal with, but it is possible to deal with it. Now, a lot of times, if you haven't been running for a while, you took the winter off, you're just getting back into it, a little bit of shin splints happens, especially if you're running on concrete quite a bit, right? And a lot of times if you just keep running through it, through a kind of a mild case of shin splints, your body will just get strengthened and it'll get used to it and they'll just go away on their own. When I was running cross country in high school, most of my friends and I would all get shin splints after the first few days of practice, but by the next week, they were pretty much gone because we just kept running and conditioning our bodies for it. However, if they don't go away, here's some things that you can do to try and mitigate that. Biggest thing that you can do, super easy to do, is just start strengthening the lower body. That means the calf and your tibialis anterior. Everybody has pretty much seen calf raises where you just raise up like this with the calves. That's great to help strengthen it. There's also a variation of this called soleus calf raises. And with soleus calf raises, you're actually going to lean up against something, a corner or a wall, and you're going to bend the knee. This is a knee bent calf raise, and you're going to lift that other leg up. And now you're going to be doing your calf raise on one leg. Then that's going to target your soleus, which is another muscle on the back of your leg there. You can also do that seated. If you sit down and you put weights on your knees, and then you just do a seated, essentially calf raise like that, that's going to help target that. You need 3 sets of 15 for both of those calf raises, and soleus calf raises is going to be great. And another good exercise for dealing with shin splints is to target the muscle in the front, your tibialis anterior muscle. And these are just called anterior tib raises. And so these, you're going to lean up against a wall. You're going to put your feet out a little bit, and then we're going to go up on our heels. So kind of the opposite of a calf raise. And you're going to feel that working in the front. You can even grab a couple dumbbells or a couple kettlebells and hold those while you do those raises. Super easy to do. I like to hold it for about a second or two at the top to really get that good contraction in that tibialis muscle. Same thing on the set rep count of these. A 3 by 15 is plenty. So those exercises will help a lot with shin splints if you're dealing with them. Just make sure that you're consistent with them. Do them 3 to 4 times a week. Don't do them every single day. You need to give your body time to recover and just be consistent with it over a couple weeks. During this process of the shin splints being there and you're trying to do these rehab exercises to deal with them, you might need to drop your mileage a little bit, which I know is tough if you are training for a marathon that's around the corner or something like that, but drop it down a little bit now, deal with the problem so it doesn't get worse and worse, and then you have to drop out of your race. So for hamstrings and calves that can pull up on you or get tight on you, stretching is really the best way. You can even implement some foam rolling if you're comfortable with that. Just know that foam rolling isn't going to give you a lasting long-term thing, any relief really long-term, but it will help you in the short term to loosen things up, get some blood flow going, and help make stretching a little bit easier. So this is where some static stretching goes a long way. Hamstring stretches, pretty much everybody knows. You can do them standing, one leg over, both legs. You can do them seated, doesn't matter, but that will help loosen up a lot of that tension in the back of the hamstring. Calves are a little harder to get to, so I highly recommend people to either build or invest in a calf slant board, which is something kind of like this guy here, which is just an angle. You can make this out of like 2 pieces of wood. And this one is nice because it has a bunch of different angles that you can put it up to, so you can really get a deep stretch on it. But with this, you're just going to step that calf into it and then kind of lean forward on it, try to keep that heel nice and planted. And that is going to give you a very deep stretch along the backside of that calf. Now this is a static stretch, so make sure we're doing this after our activity, not for a warm-up. And with any of those static stretches for the hamstrings or the calves, make sure that you are holding them for about 25 to 30 seconds. Otherwise, you're kind of just wasting your time if you're only doing a 5-10 second static stretch. So I hope those tools, those little tips help dealing with some of those things, especially the shin splints, which seems to be the most common injury. Give those a try if you're dealing with them. And remember, time and consistency beats everything.